I made it sleep deprived after a 12-hour shift, so bear with me. Thank you.
You do
Uh,
12-hour shifts at Starbucks? What are you doing?
oh, dude, people call in all the time, and I just wanted to pick up hours. It was a choice.
All right, I'm
Felt
starting
like
your
But
timer.
anyway,
Bada
anime.
boom.
Yeah, all right. Anime slash manga. Love it? Hate it? Meh? Wee. So the history of manga would be for like the Japanese culture of being like 12th century scrolls, people drawing on, paper and stuff, telling their stories, relaying information and different themes and lessons and characters and monsters and dragons and, a different lore, the lore can be brought back to those times. And if you think about it, people have been drawing and telling stories on walls since we were, banging rocks together and hitting each other with stuff. So, uh, anime, the what we would call anime, is like started with Astro Boy, which was made by Osamu Tezuka, and like people called him like the god of anime or like the father of anime. And it became a global phenomenon by the 80s and 90s with things like Akira, Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon. People were hooked, and people in even like the West were watching it. Um, so yeah, amusing. My first time, the first anime that I ever watched was Pokemon. I think I was like 4 or 5, and I was obsessed with it. I wanted Pokemon cards. I was like pretending I was having Pokemon battles. I would flip my hat backwards and throw balls at my brother and try to catch him. Um, Anime taught me many life lessons, like the power of friendship, believing in yourself, and of course, training. You got to train hard, Whatever you're interested in, you got to work hard at it. You got to train. You got to be the best. You got to be number one. You got to be the Hokage, the strongest. So, and I am still convinced one of these days I'll somehow pull off a Kamehameha. It has had tremendous influence on my life. It's gotten me through a lot of hard times and kept me happy and hyped, on the worst of my days. So, and hopeful. So, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, anime, in my opinion, can have some of the most jaw-dropping animations of any of the animated mediums that I've seen, especially like, you know, you watch a lot of cartoons or, action stuff in the West. You don't get these crazy, like, hype sequences that are thousands of frames. Anyway, epic tear-jerking stories. So some of my favorite animes have had me bawling, like crying, just on the ground, just jaw-dropping, like just done. Put me on the floor. There are hundreds of thousands of animes these days. So it can be hard to know what's good or bad without a recommendation. But sometimes it's good to just give things a try, watch an episode. If it seems stupid, whatever, you move on. Dubs, they can range from decent to hilarious to awful. I can't remember the name of the anime. I think it's like Ghost Stories or something. But in Japan, like it was like serious, like, oh, there's a ghost, there's something happening. And in the dub, the guy runs in and he's like, "Stop eating your donut, you cop." He's like, I don't know, said something stupid, but mouth flaps. A lot of people would complain that anime is just mouth flaps, but like if you think about it, talking is nothing but mouth flaps anyway. So we're all just flapping
So
mouths.
true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Anime
Yeah, that's
can
powerful.
have a lot of creepy and problematic characters and premises. So like there's if you've seen enough anime, you've seen some weird shit, and it can be pretty off-putting. So anime can be very overly sexualized. So it's like you're watching something that's like about something completely unrelated to sex, but they're just like, hey, here's some titties and an ass. Like no point. So, but on the vice versa, if you're watching, say, a rom-com anime and it's like about sex, it's about, relationships, then it's like there can be a time and a place, right? And if it's like about adults, anyway. So, shipping. So we've all shipped, right? Everybody ships. At some point in your life, I guarantee you've probably shipped to either two characters, two people you know, and sometimes shipping is the best part. you really are like looking forward to seeing your favorite character get with your other favorite character, right? And sometimes that doesn't work out. Like I've been scorned. So I used to be obsessed with Naruto, and I was like, Naruto's gonna get with Sakura. So if you know anything about Naruto, right? And like they troll you at some point, right? You're like, nah, she's not confessing. But then he ends up with Hinata, and now I accept it, you know. But back in the day, I was like, what the fuck? What is this bullshit? Fanfics. We probably all read a fanfic. I don't know, maybe not, but fanfics can be great. They can be very cringe. They can be awful. You got to find a good author. Archive of Our Own can have some good fanfics. I've also perused DeviantArt, and fanfic.net can be kind of sketchy, but like there's some good stories on there. Shipping wars. Some people are like, hey, I want Edward and Bella to end up together, or Jacob and Bella. But like it applies to anime. It happens in anime all the time. Like who's gonna win? All right. So moving on from that, cookie cutter. So many anime out there are just a copy paste of the previous story and the previous character. Not all of them, but a lot of them, right? Observe this meme here that I have pulled up from the internet. Yes. So some characters look the same, they act the same, and they basically go through the same character arc, right? They get transported to another world, they get some powers, they fucking slay the dragon, right? And it gets boring, and it gets pretty tiring and wearying to see that, right? It's like kind of off-putting, and it's in another way for anime, right? You want to find something unique and original that seems interesting. So, for instance, I first saw One Punch Man. I was like, that guy looks stupid, right? But like, it still kind of drew me in because I was like, okay, this is different. And then I watched it, and season one, especially, some of the best animation I've ever seen. Like, I've rewatched some of the fight scenes from that over and over just because of how good they are. Some, like I said, some anime that seems shit on a glance can turn out to be amazing. So give it a try. Some good anime, some recommendations. So, like I said, One Punch Man, funny, epic. Season one has some of the best animation. If you do some research on that, so the director outsourced like a bunch of talented artists from like a bunch of like different mediums. He just went hard. The guy went hard. So captivating stories. ReZero is actually probably one of my top favorite animes. Obsessed with the story, like can't wait to see what's going to happen next. And this is probably one of the ones that's gotten me by the emotional strings the most. Trigun, that's like my OG, so Vash is probably like one of my favorite main characters, and just the original anime was great. I gave the remake a try, but not too fond of the CGI animation. So anyway, moving on. Some bad anime. So, Rent a Girlfriend, a never-ending nightmare. The anime itself is just horrible. The manga is pretty good. I've been following it for quite a while. But if you observe this scene here, like, I don't know, it just gets pretty cringe at some point. The man has a boner in a pool, crying and imagining the girl he loves getting banged by some dude. So it can be a little bit intense, you know what I mean? Like, ugh. Sword Art Online. Season 1, interesting, good premise, right? Season 2, they had some incest shit and some rapey shit, and yeah,
Wait.
not too fond of that. My life is a half vending machine, huh? Oh,
Just, I mentioned Sword Art Online in the chat before you even brought it up on the thing. The betrayal was so real of that show.
Yes,
like the concept, incredible, and then it got so weird. So weird.
There's Vindication. Go on YouTube and type in Sword Art Online Abridged and watch that series. It's great. So yeah, watch Abridged series, by the way. Like Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Hilarious. It gets better and better, in my opinion. I made this title up, but like that's the kind of shit you'll see like on the Crunchyroll, right? And you're like, what the fuck? So anime music fucks. Some of the songs that I've heard from anime, like, can't get them out of my head. I listen to them constantly, like, on my way to work, on my way home, in my head, in my dreams. Some of them are my favorite songs. Emotions from a good song are always more lucid when there's a story attached. And the way that I think about that is like, say, a really good anime like taught me a lot, hit me in the feels real hard, made me laugh, made me cry, right? And then some of the music from it, the soundtrack, the opening, the ending, listening to that will give me all of that plethora of emotions all at once. It's like a opening a little package of feels, right?
Yeah.
So moving on from that, memes and references. If you've ever heard of JoJo's, that anime is ridiculous, epic. It's got it all. You got some the queerness. You got the epic action. South Park has referenced anime. All the gang turned into anime characters at one point. A lot of different anime shows have referenced some memes and like series instances from like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. If you don't, you might not think it's a JoJo's reference, but it actually probably is, or at least JoJo's has referenced it. In conclusion, watch some anime. Thank you so much, and happy birthday, Anthony. Ta-da!